No one was ready for it. Not the fans refreshing her Instagram, not the critics still dissecting the tortured poets department, and definitely not the streaming platforms that crashed within minutes. At exactly midnight on October 3rd, 2025, Taylor Swift did what only Taylor Swift could. She changed the internet's pulse with a single notification. The Life of a Showgirl. Out now. Within seconds, timelines went nuclear. Spotify's servers strained under the weight of millions of simultaneous clicks. Twitter, or what's now called X, flooded with screenshots of the album art. Neon lights, sequins, and that unmistakable look in her eyes that said this wasn't just another album. It was a statement. Fans across the globe dropped everything, work meetings, classes, even sleep, just to be part of the first listen. Hashtags like Modern Showgirl Swift, Track 13 Theory, and Taylor Takes Back 2025 trended within minutes. The comments section was chaos, a symphony of crying emojis, heart reactions, and those classic Swiftie breakdowns. She's done it again. I'm not emotionally prepared. Someone check on my mental health. But underneath all that excitement was something else. Curiosity. Because every Taylor era has a story, and this one felt different. Louder, sharper, more self-aware, like a woman rewriting her own mythology under a spotlight she built herself. And while fans were still decoding lyrics, hunting Easter eggs and comparing melodies to her past heartbreaks, Taylor was already 2 steps ahead, planning a surprise that would turn this album drop into something much bigger. Because for Taylor, this wasn't just another release. It was a message, a warning, and the start of her most ambitious era yet. By sunrise, history had already been rewritten. The Life of a Showgirl didn't just debut, it detonated. In less than 24 hours, it became the most streamed album of 2025, shattering Spotify's single-day record like glass under stadium lights. Even executives at the platform reportedly scrambled to issue a midnight statement, calling the surge unprecedented, though fans preferred another word: inevitable. Billboard servers lagged as the numbers poured in. Every track, all 16, charted simultaneously in the top 50. The lead single, Velvet Crown, hit #1 before dawn, while Mirrorball Reborn climbed to #2 by the time the East Coast finished breakfast. On TikTok, it was pandemonium. Influencers staged midnight listening parties. Fans filmed reaction clips in tears, gasping between lyrics they swore decoded a breakup, a reunion, or both. One clip, of a fan whispering, "She's talking about him again," before bursting into laughter, racked up 3 million views in an hour. Across Reddit threads and Discord servers, lyric detectives were back at work. They mapped timelines, cross-referenced Easter eggs, even analyzed wardrobe choices from her last award show appearance. Swiftie conspiracy boards lit up like Christmas trees. But this time, the speculation felt heavier. Because The Life of a Showgirl wasn't just a collection of songs. It was Taylor confronting her own mythology. The image of the perfect performer, the flawless pop architect, and turning it inside out. Each verse felt like a confession disguised as glitter. Each chorus, a rebellion wrapped in sequins. She wasn't chasing hits anymore. She was chasing closure. And just when fans thought the story would end with the charts and the chaos, Taylor dropped something no one saw coming. A second announcement that made every headline look small. Because while the world was streaming her record, Taylor Swift was quietly preparing to stream her life. The morning after The Life of a Showgirl dropped, it wasn't just the melodies people were obsessed with. It was the messages buried between them. Every lyric felt like a secret waiting to be decoded, a mirror reflecting pieces of Taylor's past that fans have been trying to piece together for nearly 2 decades. On Reddit, threads titled Track 5 Theory and Heels, Hollows, and Hidden Names exploded overnight. Fans claimed that Track 5, Champagne Backstage, was a quiet nod to her rumored fallout with a former collaborator. Others insisted it was about a reconciliation, not revenge, referencing a lyric where she sings, "I raised my glass to the ghost of you, but this time I drank it dry." Rumors suggest Velvet Crown is aimed at a high-profile ex who once called her a master of performance, twisting that jab into a victory lap. The line, "You said I act like a queen. I built the throne myself," became an instant meme. It trended for 48 hours straight. Meanwhile, Glitter Funeral sent the internet spiraling. Was it a farewell to the Reputation era? Or a symbolic burial of the good girl narrative she's been running from since 2008? No one knew for sure. And that's exactly why they couldn't stop listening. Even Backstage Confessional, a quieter track tucked near the end, sparked debate. Fans believe it touches on her struggle with fame's emotional toll, the exhaustion behind the flawless smiles, the loneliness inside stadium echoes. One viral TikTok described it perfectly. It's the sound of applause fading, and her realizing how heavy silence can be. But not every theory pointed backward. Some fans speculated the entire album was a bridge, a coded message that Taylor's closing the final chapter of her heiress legacy. After all, her closing lyric in Curtain Call, "The lights go down, but the showgirl never dies," felt less like an ending and more like a resurrection. Still, as Swifties kept dissecting and debating, few noticed the pattern hidden in plain sight. The way Taylor's rollout hinted at something bigger. Each lyric video contained subtle flashes, tour footage, production blueprints, glimpses of rehearsals that didn't match any known concert. And then it clicked. The cryptic teasers weren't just Easter eggs, they were previews. Because Taylor wasn't only releasing an album, she was building a farewell symphony. What came next would pull back the curtain on the biggest tour in modern music history. Just when fans thought they'd cracked every lyric, Taylor did what she always does. She changed the conversation. At exactly 7 a.m., Good Morning America cut to an exclusive clip. The screen flickered, and there she was, Taylor, sitting beneath a glowing marquee that read, "The End of an Era." Her hair pulled back, her voice calm, and her eyes carrying that familiar mix of exhaustion and triumph that every artist feels at the edge of a masterpiece. "People like to talk about phenomenons," she began, her tone steady, almost as if it was pieces falling into place, as if it just happened. The Eras Tour wasn't when all the pieces fell into place. This tour was when every single one of us who had done so much work, pushing inch by inch, finally clicked together. And then, that line, the one that froze the internet. "The only thing left is to close the book." That quote spread faster than any song lyric. Within hours, "The End of an Era" trended across every platform. News outlets ran with headlines like, "Taylor Swift signals goodbye to an era," and "Swifties in tears over Disney Plus doc revelation." The docuseries, she explained, wasn't just about lights, costumes, or choreography. It was about the unseen hands that built the empire, the sleepless nights, the creative breakdowns, the relentless perfectionism that turned a tour into a cultural event. Each of the 6 parts, she said, would explore a different side of the Eras Tour. From concept meetings to stage design, rehearsals to post-show reflections. It was the story behind the spectacle, told by the woman who lived every version of herself on stage. The announcement felt heavier than excitement. It felt like goodbye. For years, the Eras Tour wasn't just a concert. It was a time capsule of her entire career. A love letter to the fans who grew up alongside her, heartbreak by heartbreak, era by era. But now, that letter was sealed. Still, in true Taylor fashion, she wasn't about to let sentimentality be the last note. Because even as she talked about closing a book, she was already flipping to the next page. And what she revealed next made it clear. She wasn't done performing. She was about to give fans one final encore they'd never forget. When Taylor said she was closing the book, she didn't mean putting it on a shelf. She meant sealing it in gold and handing it back to the people who helped her write it. Hours after the Disney Plus announcement, another teaser dropped. A single black and white frame on her Instagram with the caption, "December 12th, one last show." Within minutes, Swifties had it screenshotted, zoomed, filtered, and decoded. The skyline in the corner wasn't New York or London. It was Vancouver, BC, the final stop of the Eras Tour. And that's when the second surprise hit. Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour. The final show, premiering the same day as the docuseries. A full concert film, uncut and untouched, capturing the energy, emotion, and exhaustion of that last night on stage. In the trailer, the roar of the crowd hits first. 80,000 fans, every bracelet blinking in rhythm like a living galaxy. Then the camera finds her. Mid-stride, sequins glinting under floodlights. That calm smile that hides 1,000 sleepless nights. She raises the mic and whispers, "Let's make this one count." But the biggest surprise came halfway through. The preview. A sudden title card reading, "Featuring the Tortured Poets Department Set." For the first time, fans would see her perform every song from the album that once blurred heartbreak and poetry into one raw narrative. Clips flashed by in milliseconds. Taylor seated at a white piano surrounded by floating pages. Dancers, moving through rain-lit choreography. The screen behind her spelling out fragments of handwritten lyrics. It was intimate, cinematic, and defiant. A farewell not with tears, but with thunder. Insiders claim the film doesn't just show the concert. It stitches together behind-the-scenes moments from that week in Vancouver. Rehearsals, team hugs, the quiet seconds before the final walk to stage. You can almost feel the weight of it. The realization that after 17 months, 44 cities, and hundreds of hours of music, this was the final bow. And yet, even in those closing moments, Taylor doesn't crumble. She smiles through the tears, looks out over the stadium, and says softly, "Every ending is a stage light turning red, so the next one can shine gold." That line alone set off another storm online. Fans called it her eternal mic drop, because the final show wasn't just a concert. It was a time capsule of everything she'd built. The art, the chaos, the reinventions, the resilience. A love letter sealed in applause. And if there's one thing Taylor Swift has proven again and again, it's that endings are never the end. They're the quiet breath before the next roar. When the final chords faded and the confetti settled across the Vancouver Stadium, it felt like the end of something bigger than a concert. It was the closing scene of a decade-long saga, one that began with a country girl in boots and ended with a global icon who turned heartbreak into an art form. For 17 years, Taylor Swift has done what few artists ever manage. She stayed human while becoming monumental. Each era was a version of herself preserved in sound. Fearless youth, wounded poet, reborn storyteller, quiet architect of her own empire. The Life of a Showgirl wasn't just an album title. It was a confession. The showgirl isn't an act. She's the truth beneath the lights. Critics are already calling this her golden chapter, the point where fame and authenticity finally merged. She no longer sings for validation. She sings for evolution. The Disney Plus docuseries and the final show don't mark retirement. They mark a woman reclaiming authorship over her story, before the world can rewrite it for her. And maybe that's the genius of it all. While other artists chase algorithms and trends, Taylor still chases meaning. She understands that legacy isn't measured in streams or sales. It's measured in the echo that lingers after the last note fades. But here's the twist. Rumors suggest she's already back in the studio. A few eagle-eyed fans noticed a notebook labeled TLOS Reprise in one of her behind-the-scenes clips. Maybe it's nothing. Or maybe, like always, she's hinting that the next transformation has already begun. Because if history's taught us anything, it's that Taylor never truly ends an era. She evolves it. The costumes change, the sound shifts, the tone matures, but the heartbeat stays the same. That unshakable rhythm of a woman who refuses to be outwritten by her own mythology. So as the Life of a Showgirl closes its final curtain, one question remains. What stage will she build next? Will it be quieter, stripped back, raw, reflective? Or louder, a new sound that no one saw coming? Either way, one thing's certain. Taylor Swift doesn't wait for permission to start the next chapter. She's already writing it. And as the lights fade to black, the world leans in, waiting for the first note of whatever comes after the end of an era. So tell me, what do you think comes next for Taylor?